you ready to forgive the past so you can move forward in your life? On today's episode, we will be talking about forgiveness and how you can use it to heal your life.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Manifestation Mindset, where we talk about developing the mindset of manifesting, breaking through emotional challenges, and getting past all the limiting beliefs and challenges that we have in our life. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia, and we go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. So if you want to subscribe to our show, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you like our videos, hit the thumbs up. And also remember to hit the bell icon so you can get the reminders of when we go live.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about forgiveness. And today's episode was really inspired through some current events that Veronica and I were going through with a good friend of ours, and was going through a very hard time in his life. And one of the things that we were trying to help him with is understand like the value and of still being here. And you know, he's really in a very bad place and really didn't want to be here. And that's the things that he was telling us. And we were just took him through a healing process to help him to release the things that he was holding on to. And we can start to see a shift in his life because he was seeing things from a different perspective. He was actually able to release things that he'd been holding on to that just kept creeping up and showing up again and again in his life. And so when we talk about this concept of forgiveness, it can be a very powerful process. And we can use, every one of us can use it in our life in some way, shape, or form.
So I'm going to read to you a poem, and it's called I Forgive Myself. Actually, it's not really a poem, but it's one of the writings that a friend of ours wrote after he had a breakthrough and was a little more clear in his mind. It says, it's called I Forgive Myself. It says, I forgive myself for hating myself. I forgive myself for not letting go. I forgive myself for not being kind to myself. I forgive myself for not believing in myself. I forgive myself for overeating to cover the pain. I forgive myself for not allowing myself to be free. I forgive myself for not seeing my values and only seeing them through others' eyes. I forgive myself for not telling myself how great I am. I forgive myself for not being nice to myself when all I needed was to be nice to myself. I forgive myself for holding on to others. You should do this with your life. You should do what I tell you, not what you want in your life. I forgive myself for not looking inside of me for the answers. I forgive myself for pushing people away. I forgive myself for smiling when all I needed to was cry. And that was, the writing from our friend, and it was called I Forgive Myself.
And what was beautiful about that whole process was, after, the big moment of the big emotional release that he was going through, and we were there to console him, and also with another friend of ours, and we just wanted to make sure that he was in a safe place because a lot of times when people get into that state of, the only way to get around my pain is to end it. And there's a lot of people that go through this. We hear it on the news and celebrities all the time, but also even in this time of COVID-19 and 2020, there is a lot of suicide rates, a lot of depression that were going on. And because people maybe not see any other way because the pain becomes so great on the inside that they can't tolerate it anymore. And this is something that he was going through, and we can see like he was just in a bad spot. And all we really wanted to do is help him just to feel and just express what he was going through. And he felt definitely better after we had the opportunity to talk to him. Talked with a good friend of ours that he was able to stay with and make sure that he was safe. And the next day they took him out and he journaled, and that was what came out of that. And
yeah, very awesome.
And to see that come out of him was something completely different. And he told us that I don't really know like why I wrote those words, I forgive myself, on that page, but that's what came out. And we were just telling him that's what your inner calling has been asking for. That's what you've been craving for. Why do things keep happening? Because he needed to forgive something in his life. And there's a lot of things that we can all forgive, right? And forgiveness it's almost like, yeah, it's like when you're like your credit score gets kind of cleaned out and you're back to square zero again, and it's like you get to start fresh all over by healing the past.
Yeah, so it's very powerful and very healing to be able to forgive others, but also yourself. Because the moment you do that, it's like you're not really beating yourself up anymore for not doing certain things, for maybe doing certain things, and it's very healing to finally just let go and just allow yourself to be, allow yourself to be present here in the moment, and just let go of any judgments you had on yourself and about things you do, things you don't do, and it's just very freeing. So it's forgiveness is something that a lot of people should do, not just for others but for themselves, really.
Yeah, and that should really be the first place that all of us should start with is how many of us or how many people beat themselves up for things that we've done in the past or things that we said or acts that we had done. And it's interesting because I've watched videos on YouTube. I've seen other people that we've had met that when you look at their past and their life and the things that they've gone through, it's like, wow, I can't believe this person was like this or
Hmm.
how they were. But the transformation that you can see in them, it's like you wouldn't really believe it if you met them because they had gone through a healing process in their life, and it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And so that first place that we always start with forgiveness is with us, with ourselves. It's the inner forgiveness. And everything always starts as that inner process, when we begin this process. And it was really freeing for myself when I was able to forgive myself for anything that I felt was um, maybe things that I said to other people or things that I did, mistakes that I made in my life. When I forgave myself for that, it's like, wow, I don't have to carry that anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, because sometimes when, like, say you mess up and say you're in a state of anger and then you blurt out some words that are probably not the best words or that can hurt others' feelings. And maybe in that moment of anger, you said something that you didn't really mean. And then, the relationship, it ends. And then all of a sudden you're feeling like that guilt and you're beating yourself up of like, why did I do this? And a lot of people hold on to that for years. And it really eats them up on the inside. But when you are able to forgive yourself, you're no longer carrying that weight of what you did or what you could have done,
Mhm.
and it's just like allowing yourself to let that go, and then you can move forward in your life. But when you don't forgive, even forgiving others for something that they did to you, that's just hurting yourself. It doesn't hurt them at all because they probably have don't even have any clue that you're going through this internal struggle of maybe resentment or anger towards them. And the moment you have those feelings, it changes your whole body chemistry and it really eats you up on the inside. And just thinking about the person, if your blood starts to boil, like that's a sign that you haven't let go of anything. Like you're still holding on strongly to those feelings of what they did.
Mhm.
So in order to move forward, forgiveness is a number one thing that will help you to let go and move
Yeah, a few months back, we were working with a gentleman who was struggling a lot in different areas of his life, and what he was experiencing was just a lot of pent up anger. And he found himself lashing out at other people, and he really wanted to improve his relationships. And as we started to identify things that maybe he was holding on to, or why he reacts in the way that he does to when people say this, or if someone doesn't do something, is like, that always comes from an experience, and it gets stored as a memory within our body and our cells and our nervous system. And one thing that showed up for him was there was a very significant emotional event in his life around when he was 18, and he's probably in his 50s, maybe early 60s. I'm not sure, but when he was around 18, he made a poor decision to do something, and it cost him to go to jail and for some time. And part of that was a family member wanted him to do something, and where that gut instinct told him maybe I shouldn't do this, but he did it anyways, and he was arrested for it. And for so long, he had a lot of anger and resentment towards his
Mhm.
brother for like blaming him for what had happened. And I think going through that process, he was allowed to release a lot of that anger. And not only that, but he also had to forgive himself because at that moment he realized it wasn't really my brother's fault. I'm the one that said yes to it. I could have easily walked away and said no and just allow him to do what he needed to do. But and then that's a lesson for all of us is we make our own choices in our life. No one ever makes us to do anything, but we choose to either accept it or not. So you are the creator. And when he owned up to that,
Mhm.
like it was a huge releasing process for him. And after that session, he felt calmer. He just felt this inner peace and serenity, as he told us. And he even had a conversation with his brother and forgave him and asked his brother, "Hey, can you forgive me too?" And he healed and mended that relationship for maybe what 50, 40 plus years, and holding on to that, and everything started to change for him.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's the power of forgiveness and how it can help you and those around you. And you'll know when, when that has gone away, like when you forgive and you let go, because when you think about it and when it no longer brings up emotion, like negative emotions, then you know you've truly let go. And when you can look at it just like an event that happened, kind of like watching a movie, how you watch it, if you watch it more than once, and then it's just like just watching a movie, and you can see those events in your life like, just like an event, and you no longer hold on to any emotions around that, then that's how you know you truly let go of that. And there's different things online that are, regarding forgiveness, like a forgiveness meditation that you can do.
Hmm.
If you need a little guidance, look up forgiveness meditations, and there's so many different things online. But it's just allowing yourself to set that time and that space for you to fully forgive others and also yourself. And if you want like a visualization, what you can do is just close your eyes and imagine that person sitting right in front of you if it's regarding another person, and ask them if they can forgive you, and then hear the response, and then you let them know, like, I forgive you, and then you can
Hmm.
ask, do you forgive me? And just see what happens. And when you're speaking to your higher self and the higher self of others, for the most part, everything is done out of love. And our conscious mind, when we're here, it's like we're trying to rationalize things and just overthink things, and that's when our emotions can get in the way. But when you're really speaking from the heart, things just, there's nothing to hold on to anymore.
Yeah, and there's people that would say, "Well, how do I forgive? How can I do that process if it is regarding another person? They're not speaking to me, or it's very hard for me to talk to them about this."
Hmm.
Well, we do it as an internal process first because what makes things very difficult and like nervous, a nervousness is it's a feeling, right? You feel that in your body, and so the concept is what can we do to desensitize that so it's not as strong so you have the strength to take that next step to work with talk with other people. And that first part is you start with your own mindset. You can imagine, you can visualize. You talked about just now, seeing that person and having
Hmm.
that conversation with them in your mind, that you can do that because the imagery, the feelings, if you when you feel it, as you imagine it, it's real to you. And as you do that, and you start to notice any releasing as you forgive that person, and that visualize that person forgiving you back, and you mend that relationship, is you allow the emotions that show up to free up and allow them to come out, whatever that needs to be, and just you find a quiet place to do that. Close your eyes, and you'll find that each time you have an emotional release, that's what starts to desensitize that feeling. And then to take a next step forward would be okay, after visualizing, maybe you can write it down on paper. Maybe you can't physically talk to another person, but maybe you can write a letter. And that letter may not have to go to that person, but just writing it is another way of releasing energy. And then as you feel that, you could choose to send that person the letter, or you can call that person up, or talk to them when when your emotions have been calmed down and they've been released, because no matter what goes on with that other person is how you feel on the inside, regardless of how the other person reacts. That's the most important part.
Yeah. So, and also, a lot of people have they hold on to guilt when, say, there was an issue with another person and the other person passed away, and then they have that guilt of like, oh, I never forgave them, or I never, took the time to talk to them before they passed. And that could really eat someone on the inside, because it's like they're holding on to all that guilt, which is, it's not good for you internally and for your mind. But you can still do this process even though they have crossed over, because they're still around in spirit, and they can, they will know.
Hmm.
So you can still take that time to sit down and visualize them in front of you, like if they were here, and do the same process. Ask them for forgiveness, forgive them,
Talk to
or
them.
yeah, just talk to them, have a conversation like they're sitting right in front of you. And that will be very freeing for, for yourself, just to be able to do that, because then it's like you're letting go, and you're putting out that energy of releasing everything that you were holding on to. And if you feel like crying, go ahead and cry. That's actually very therapeutic to do.
And that's something that we were going through with, our friend that was going through a very challenging time. Is rather than talking to them like, oh, there's so much more to live for. You can do these things. You have all these people, and trying to see the perspective. The biggest thing was, when you're in those highly emotional states, it's hard to focus and pay attention to all that stuff. It's so you get caught up in the storm. So we just allowed him to feel. Like, okay, just feel that. And because how many people feel uncomfortable when their emotions come up? And, it doesn't feel very good in the moment. And not a lot of people are conditioned or trained how to work with our emotions. What do we do with this when it shows up? Is it okay for me to cry? And most times we're taught that it's not okay to show our emotions and how we feel when we're feeling upset about something. And so what do? Oh, people are going to ridicule me or say something. So we bottle it up. We try not to show it. And it becomes this conditioned, process in our mind that I can't express how I feel, because what are other people going to think about me? It's not good. Or if I do cry, oh my God, I'm a bad person because I'm crying or I'm getting upset with something. It's like, no, you allow those feelings because they're natural. We have to let those
Hmm.
out. And the more we can, educate people on this. And when our friend was able to do this, it was like, okay, the storm, went through. So you don't try to, when it's raining heavy outside, and I was sharing this analogy with him. So when it's raining heavily outside, like, you're not sitting there trying to control and stop the rain from coming. It's like, it's going to come. Eventually, you all know that that heavy rain is going to stop at some point. Same thing when our emotions come out. We're releasing energy,
Hmm.
and that energy can't be going on automatically forever. You're going to expend it all until your body can recover.
Yeah, and when you talked about the rain and the storm coming, and it's very cleansing. Like if you ever pay attention to, before the rain comes and how the sky looks, but then after the rain, it's like the rain washes out like all the stuff in the air, and it just feels more fresh. And that's the same with us. When we cry, it like it's cleansing, and it just releases those negative energies, and it makes you feel good. You might feel tired because it was a lot of energy that that came out, but afterwards, like you will feel better, and it's like a weight being lifted off.
Yeah, and again, the importance of all of this is when we carry on or carry all of these pent up, thoughts, belief systems, emotions, things from our past, what we, mistakes that we've made, what other people did to us, what we did for other people, and we hold on to that. You radiate that energy, and it's at such a subtle form that you may not even be paying attention to, but you can experience that in your environment, and you can experience that in the results that you're getting in your life. Have you ever said to yourself, why do these things keep happening to me, or I feel
Mhm.
stuck? How come I can't move forward? It seems like everything just seems to be going wrong. Well, there's something within you, there's something within all of us when we feel stuck in some way that we need to work through. And if things keep repeating themselves as patterns in your life, that's the universe trying to give you a signal that, hey, you need to work through something because you're going to recreate the same energy. And once you make that shift, once you've learned to clear that energy out, all those patterns start to go away just on their own. You don't really have to do a whole lot because you're carrying it and radiating a different energy. And by law of attraction, you have to attract something different.
Yeah, and this can go like when you're like people looking to be in a relationship, looking for a partner. Sometimes when they haven't let go or forgiven a previous relationship, or not even a intimate relationship, but even like relationships with parents, mom, dad, because that represents if you're a female, it could be dad, or if you're a male, it could be mom. It represents like the opposite sex. So if there was issues in your childhood with one of your parents, you can still be holding on to some negative energy that was um, tied to that. So if they did something, or say your parents always argued, and then you find yourself always arguing with your significant other. So it's really paying attention to patterns and paying attention to how you feel. And sometimes like people have issues with the opposite sex because of that. So it's something that needs to be forgiven, and that's just it's like a sign telling you, oh, maybe I haven't forgiven my parents for for this or that, or maybe I haven't forgiven my ex for what they did to me. So
Mhm.
it's all just being aware of how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and the patterns in your life that show up.
Yeah, and so going back to the story of our friend, really was in a bad space and suicidal thoughts. He was
Hmm.
telling us how, like, I can just see myself on the bridge. I can do all this, and didn't seem anywhere because he was so stuck in that storm. And when he got a chance to release all that, like he felt calmer. We felt that he just needed to be in a safe place. He felt maybe I just need to go to like a hospital and journal and be safe and we said, okay. And what was interesting about that is he was with a friend of ours. He stayed up, he was going to go, and we had taken off. And the next day, we realized that he had stayed over. He didn't really go to the hospital because he started to feel better. And our other friend had taken him for, a hike or just a walk. And they sat and they journaled. And that's where that beautiful poem of I Forgive Myself came out. And we got an opportunity to see him again yesterday. And it was interesting because he was finally going through a healing process.
Hmm.
And just by releasing more emotion, he started to finally say, I forgive my mom. I love my mom. Where before the conversation was, I hate my mom.
Hmm.
She ruined all these things in my life and like just had so much resentment where he can really feel I forgive her for everything. No matter what she's done to me, I forgive her. And the emotion came out because he can start to feel how much he really loved his mom.
Yeah.
And we were all just looking there and like he said, I love my mom. And like we would never hear him say that before.
Yeah, and he even mentioned that. He's like, I wouldn't be saying this like a year ago. And then our friend said, you wouldn't be saying that 2 months ago.
Yeah. And he didn't have a conversation with his mom.
Yeah.
He had that internal conversation within himself by allowing things to come out and started to mend family relationships. Because of that he went through a lot of stuff in his childhood with just his family. And a lot of people go through that. The family can be the biggest, you know, issue in their life of things that they did, they said, this is what they did. It's like whatever happened is like you can choose to change that. You can choose to forgive and let go and move forward in your life. And we started to see him finally go through that process, which took us a long time to break through to him because he was so stuck, like not being able to express and connect to what he was feeling. And once he broke through that wall, like the look on his face, you can just see this light and this glow around
Hmm.
him and like he's just a brand new person. And so that's also the beauty part about all this is sometimes in our darkest moments, that is where the biggest blessing and transformation occurs. And a lot of times we have to go through those sometimes because otherwise it wouldn't push us to seek improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, and it might feel like the worst you've ever felt, but just know that it can't be that way forever. And there is, there is some light that's gonna be shed upon this because sometimes in those moments, it's like you're thinking because you're such in a negative state, you can think like how can this ever be any better than and how can I improve this situation? And when you're emotional, you can't really think about solutions. You can't think because you're so caught up in your mind of everything going bad. And if you look at what are you focusing on? You're focusing on everything that's going wrong in your life,
Mhm.
everything that you don't like, everything that's just negative. And the moment you switch your point of focus to more positive and express gratitude for being here, you start to change your way of thinking, and you start to look at at things more positive, and you start to find solutions, and it's like, oh, well, I can do this, or I can do that, or I can ask for help. And a lot of times just asking for help will change everything because another person will give you a complete different perspective than what you have in that moment, especially when you're
Mhm.
not feeling so good. Because when you're in that state of mind, you can't really think of solutions. So, just calling someone, hey, I'm not doing so well. Can you help me out? Just doing that, it will make a huge difference.
And that's exactly what our friend did.
Hmm.
Like he knew he was going through a bad space, and he went to visit our other friend. But then he realized, I'm in a really bad space right now. I'm having all these thoughts. This is what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. And our friend said, call Aaron and Veronica. And he called us. He's like, I'm going through a hard time. He's like, can you guys come down? We went over there as soon as we could.
Hmm.
And but he wouldn't be have able to go through that process had he not had the courage to ask for help from other people,
Yeah.
because we need, we're all here, we're connected with each other. And sometimes if you don't know how to go through that forgiveness process by yourself, learn, ask people. Veronica mentioned earlier, there's tons of resources out there, and we're here for you as well. If you guys need to, release something, you feel like you're stuck and you're going through some really challenges in your life, and you're not able to create the life that you truly want, then give us a call, reach out to us, because this is what we help you do. Is we help you get through those emotional blockages that keep you from moving forward, that keep you from creating the life that you can live, that you would want to live, because you can. And that's the most important part. And so, if this is video has been helpful for you guys today, please share it with anybody, because we never know who this message is going to impact, and somebody may need to hear this today. And so what you could do is you can always send our link, and I'm going to put it here. Let me just do it here. There it is. I got to clicking buttons here.
There it
So,
is.
you can follow us here on YouTube. You just go to aaronveronica.com. That will take you to our YouTube page. And what you can do is once you get there, you can see all the different videos that we share to help here on the show, Manifestation Mindset. And what you want to do is when you get there, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, and give us a thumbs up on if you like the video, if it's been helpful, and click that bell so you get reminders and notifications each time when we have a new video posted.
And we go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. So if you want to tune in live, or if you have any questions, you can watch us live and post the questions, and we'll answer them on the show.
Yeah, and love to hear your thoughts here in the comments of how this has been helpful. If there's any questions you have, you can put those in the comments and we will respond to you. So thank you guys for joining with us here on today's episode of Manifestation Mindset, Healing Through Forgiveness. And we will see you next time.
All right. Have a great day.